What's up, jazz guitar friends? Hey, how's it going? Phillies lost a heartbreaker. Not really a heartbreaker, they kind of fell apart. Lost to the Twins, so I'm playing blues all day. And the biggest question I get from most of the students that take lessons from me is, how do I get out of the pentatonic box, right? This seems to be the biggest hurdle that I guess novice guitar players, intermediate, making the jump. You know, you could really understand how to articulate well and play some guitar, but have no idea how to get out of the box. Your thinking is almost like a fretboard Tetris. It's just shapes. And, you know, when you're playing the guitar in shapes, you kind of have blinders on already. It's almost like your destination is already planned for you. Of course, you might do some different stuff if you're on or whatever. But the big thing is you sort of end up playing the same solo. Well, because you're playing the same exact notes. Imagine if you were a painter only using the same colors, you're going to paint the same thing. You know, you got blue, it's going to be the sky or some water, whatever. Not a lot of choices. So here are 3 things that you can do that I demonstrated in the gig simulator that are going to help you out. Number 1, the first thing, obviously, right? A minor pentatonic. Every guitar player learns this. Can you play a solo over a blues using that? Absolutely. But you're missing the big picture. All right, well, the first thing you can do is you can try to play using one finger, okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just use one finger.
1, 2.
There's Jamie with the count in,
3,
right?
4.
Right? Nothing major happening. Right? Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. All right? Using one finger. Sure, I make it look a little easier than it might be starting out, but you know, you're seeing maybe more of the finished product than the whole process. But trust the process. So what I was really trying to do is connect the guitar. And when you're using one finger, you definitely have a lot of chance to get some sustain. I don't play with distortion, but I think, or overdrive, but I think the only way to get sustain on a guitar is that way. You can use your finger and get some articulation. Sometimes you have to press hard. Sometimes you have to, do some vibrato. Whatever you got to throw on it to make it kind of pop a little bit and sound sort of like a vocal. The whole point is to sound like a human voice, right? He even understands that. So that's one thing you can do. Now, when you've been playing in that kind of hand position forever, well, try to just play that scale that you're used to with one finger. I've always felt that when people start with your first finger, there's a lot of momentum here because you sort of have some backup. But once you get to like that third, and especially your pinky, well, that's where that phrase is going to go to sort of die. There's no extra finger coming around unless you know the six-finger man. There's no six finger coming around that's going to be able to keep that line going. And the idea of just using more of your guitar is really cool too. So here's number 2, right? The second thing that you're going to do to help you is to start to think about the third of the chord. So check it out. I'm going to take another chorus where I'm just going to talk about playing the third. Now, real quick, in A minor, my third is C. When it goes to the 4 chord, which is D minor, my 4 is going to be an F. That's huge because if you're playing an A minor pentatonic scale over everything, and then when it changes to the 4 chord, and you're never playing the third of that chord, well, you're missing out a huge tonal palette, as they say. Also, the big daddy note here is the G sharp. Ooh, that doesn't sound good in this context, but that G sharp is going to be the third of E7, which is the 5th of this, an A minor blues. And obviously, if the 5 chord is the most important, then that third of the 5 chord is going to be huge. Also, again, G sharp noticeably absent from that A minor pentatonic. So check it out. So I'm going to play. I think it went for a little bit, but I'll find it. Right? Right? So, and here's that G sharp. I'll do another one. So I'm thinking about this. It's a line that you can play, right? C, A. And then once I get to my 4, and then here's my turnaround. There's the F. So important, right, to get the sound. Also important when I'm going to the 4, approaching that C sharp. A to F, G sharp to E. So wow, I just added I added 3 notes, maybe 4 notes to that I was targeting, and came up with a drastically different story to tell. Obviously, he's pretty riveted by it. Dude is asleep. So you get a whole new story, right? With the third. Real easy once we start here, but then once it goes to the 4, again, back to the 1. And then I have, let's talk about this turnaround. You got that, I guess I could play that F dominant to an E7. But super important, right? E flat to A, D to G sharp. Wow. Really aiming for those notes is going to make a huge, huge difference. Now the next thing, the third thing that we're going to end up talking about is getting some vocabulary in. Does that mean licks? Absolutely. who are your favorite players? Try to emulate them. It's never going to be the same, but figure out what they're doing. And it's not a lot of the times the licks that they're playing, it's how they're approaching the chords. One thing that I did, now this just sort of sounds like adding or maybe like more chords, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it as phrasing and sort of planning out your idea. So something that you can do, and then it kind of plays the 2-5 back to that. Now you have opportunities right then and there to sort of implement that third idea, but I'm really not doing that. Once it goes to the 4, you hear it go to an A7 very briefly. That's super important. It might be for like 2 beats, but that's where your line's gonna start. And you know, I'm maybe approaching, just because I'm playing an A minor doesn't mean that I'm just going to be thinking in A minor all the time. I do have, for a moment, have to think of this as a dominant chord going to my 4. And when that happens, that's sort of like a springboard going into the next chord. So I'm going to maybe play a lick or something and approach that 4 chord just like I would do right back there, right? Even though there's no E7 sharp 9 here. Oops. And obviously when I have my turnaround, I have a lot of things I can do, right? I can approach this C, F, B minor, and then my turnaround, there's a lot of different stuff I can do. I can throw in some of my own home cooking. I can play something like that, So maybe I'll just try to play some vocabulary and some other ideas. Here's that line. And then, right, happens really quick. Repetition. Right? I get a lot of people that say, I'm tired of playing pentatonics in the blues. Well, why? I mean, it was fine for Train and Miles and Grant Green and so many other great players. Like, you don't want to move too far away from that formula. It works for a reason. And by just kind of playing like a little bit of vocabulary, you heard me play like a run over that, turnaround. There's a good chance to get jazzy. But those 3 things are really going to help you get out of the box. It's not that hard. I mean, think of it, if you already know 5 notes for the whole 12 bars, you're really only adding a couple more notes. It's totally doable, and it's really more about doing some of the work, being willing to not sound great at first, and just trying to get the reps in. And I'm pretty good proof that the more you keep working on something, that's going to be a skill that you're going to be able to sort of get in your bag. So, all right, jazz guitar friends, if you made it this far, blues guitar friends, rock guitar friends, all my guitar friends, if you made it this far, thanks for hanging out. Like I said, using the gig simulator really helps too to get your reps in, and these are just going to be ideas that you just rinse, repeat, keep doing, and you'll obviously notice a difference. Like I said, 3 things. Using one finger to get yourself out of the pattern area. Aiming for the thirds of the chords. Trying to throw in some vocabulary and work on how you're approaching these chords within the blues. All right, and maybe you just need a blues name. Mashed Potato Brown, Baked Ziti, Marinelli, they're all fun. Guitar is fun. Have fun with it. That's number one, too. All right, keep going, keep swinging. Bebop.